The downfall of North Carolina gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson continues. We have a big update on why it is that earlier this week, much of his campaign team ended up leaving him, and it does not look good at all for him. But we have other updates as well. Bad signs when it comes to the funding for his campaign, and multiple politicians, some explicitly, some implicitly, pulling their support from him just weeks out from the election. And so here's the big headline, and it proved consequential. Mark Robinson apparently declined offers to enlist tech experts to exonerate him in the racist porn forum scandal. So there are all of these claims being attributed to him that he had previously posted on porn forums, as you do as a guy, about trans porn and about being a black Nazi and supporting slavery and all that stuff. And the evidence that it was him is better than he is implying. The ISP clearly translates to areas he was living in. It's the same screen names that he was using on other forums. Some of the comments were posted on his Facebook page, stuff like that. And so he's claiming generally that these things did not actually happen, that they were not him. And so if you could bring in experts to uncover evidence that it wasn't you, that would seem to be pretty helpful, but he refused to do so. And apparently because he rejected the multiple offers, that actually led to some of the staff members having more doubt about him. And his response apparently likely played a role in the exodus of some staff members, which I think makes sense. I mean, he was already starting to trail in the polls, and he had already had a long history of saying absolutely reprehensible and insane and homophobic things, misogynistic things, all of that. But like all of this comes out, and your only defense is it wasn't me, but I don't care to try to prove that it wasn't me. Do you want to go down with that sinking ship? It already looks like you're going to fail. Maybe it's better to not have on your resume that you were there on election day. And so we don't know for sure, but a lot of them did leave.
A storm is tearing up the digital media industry. Only our audience can save us in these difficult times. Help us reach our goal of 100,000 new members at tyt.com/team.
Now, he is still defiant, and so we want to give you at least a little bit of that to provide some balance. Take a look.
We're here for the people who are struggling to get their children a decent education. We're not here to talk about 15 or 20-year-old salacious false lies. They don't want to talk about what's going on right now. They want to talk about what possibly happened 15 years ago.
You talked about the reporting being salacious lies, not true. Have you taken steps then to prove it's not you?
We absolutely are. We absolutely are. We're in talks right now, everything up to legal counsel to take CNN to task for what they have done to us. We are going after them, okay? We are going to go after them for what they've done.
Okay, he corrected himself there. You're not going after them, to be clear. You're saying that you might, but you're not for some reason. If these are lies, dear God, you've got to go after them. That's terrible. And yeah, you're not. That seems interesting. And also, I don't know if anybody else caught this. I don't know, Garrison, if you caught this. So generally, when bad comments come up, it's either a lie that's the issue, or it's 15 years old that's the issue. If it's a lie, what does it matter that it's 15 years old?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think the double negatives were kind of funny to me. False lies, it's always interesting. It's like, well, is a false lie a truth? I just don't know. Okay, fine. But the 15-year-old thing is like, man, like that is usually the like, hey, this was the old me. I've grown ever since. I want to be careful here. All right, John, I want to be careful. Like he can be into what he's into. His online life is his online life. His forum life is his forum life. The problem is the way that he has represented trans men and women and people who as these infiltrators, as this kind of cancer in society, not to quote him, but to say that that's the way he's represented this community. And it feels really, really hypocritical in this moment, right? And so I think that's why folks aren't holding back. But what's most important in this conversation about Mark Robinson is the question of how did we get here? A person like Mark Robinson should have never been a major party's gubernatorial candidate, folks. Like how did we get here? Well, I can tell you how we got here. He said the right things, and he believed the right things, and he cozied up to the right person, and that's really all it takes. It doesn't take any rigor. It doesn't take any consistency. It doesn't take for you to pass a basic kind of vetting background check. You just have to be cozy with Donald Trump in today's Republican Party, and you can rise to the highest office in the state. You can be one of the top, there are only 50 of them, right? Like you can be one of the top representatives on a state level in this country if you cozy up to the top of the ticket. And it's concerning. I think that in many ways, I'm hopeful that after all of this, Republicans will have like a moment to think like, man, what have we allowed for this party to become if Mark Robinson, with all that he said, all that he's done, beyond the current scandal, his statements about Jewish people that have come out, his statements about different communities should be disqualifying to represent a state as diverse as North Carolina. And so I don't know if those lessons will be learned, but I'm concerned. I'm concerned that we are here. This is a real like telltale moment. Like this is a really important moment for some self-assessment for the Republican Party. And I'm not confident that they'll do it.
And look, I want to remind people to your earlier point, it's not like he was just a relatively unknown porn connoisseur that is now running for governor. He's the lieutenant governor right now.
Currently, you're right.
He already got elected, which seems crazy now. And who are the Republicans that ran against him? But like, I agree. Look, what you seem to be calling for is what people have been like either calling for or speculating about when it'll happen since Donald Trump, basically. Like, when will the Republicans see some sense? And not like, by the way, I'm at least not saying, and go back to being a normal, responsible political party, because they were not that before and they won't be. They'll still be terrible in a lot of different ways.
Fair.
But here's the fundamental issue. Let's say that a critical mass of the Republican electeds, the party apparatus or whatever, are like, okay, we did Herschel Walker, we did Dr. Oz. Like, we got Mark Robinson. Can we do some normal candidates? But the issue is, they're not fundamentally in charge. I mean, maybe they could sabotage the candidacies in some way, bureaucratic or whatever. The Republican primary electorate are the ones that are screwing over the party, and they still like people like Mark Robinson.
Right.
And they like the Herschel Walkers, and they like the Carrie Lakes, and they want all of that. So what do you do?
No, I think you're right. I think you have to look at the folks who are actually winning in this party, in the Republican Party currently. The folks who have some bipartisan appeal. I think about Larry Hogan in Maryland, who's running for senator, and he's gonna put up a good fight against Allison Alsobrooks. I'm thinking about the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, who, you can have whatever you wanna say, but he's relatively popular in the state, and they think he has a good chance of winning a Senate seat in the coming years. Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, who won a bipartisan vote. And so those are kind of more of your traditional kind of small government, whatever you want to say, Republican figures. I might disagree with the characterization, but they certainly harken back to a time of, say, like a Newt Gingrich or George W. Bush, who were, to be clear, kind of crazy in their own time, but are certainly much more in the mainstream than a Mark Robinson. Come on, people, come on.
We should be better. I'm not saying that we should be good, but we should be better than this. We should some standard, literally any standard. I can't see the standard, it's in the shadows. We should be better than Mark Robinson. And based on the polling, it looks like maybe we are. He is trailing by like more than 10 points, which is good news, and you never know. I mean, who was the alleged pedophile that nearly won?
Oh, in Alabama, Doug.
Moore?
He lost
no,
to
not
Doug.
Moore.
But yes.
I can always count on Edwin. My gatherer, Roy Moore. Thank you. I said Moore. Okay. Roy Moore. Thank you to the control room. Roy Moore. That race was so close. It was so close. And this was in the midst of, like, if the Republican Party could agree on one thing, it's we really don't like pedophiles. But that one seems okay.
Right.
Anyway, but by the way, the funding for Mark Robinson, and we'll close on this, seems to have mostly dried up. There's not going to be a lot more fundraising for him, a lot more ads for him. Trump did not mention him when like running down a list of candidates people should be excited about. He's not talking about him. He's too toxic for Trump.
Wait, after Trump said that he is like MLK on steroids, he's distancing himself from MLK on steroids. That's surprising.
Yeah, well, apparently the steroids caused a political rage, I guess, a roid rage. But and Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, who chairs the Republican Governors Association, has formally pulled support. Says that he's not personally going to support. So, yeah, he's still running. Like, there's no time at this point to drop out and get a replacement candidate, but it doesn't look good for him. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.